All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Rajneesh Gupta, and this is our mock interview series for security analyst or security analyst or SOC analyst. Okay, so with me I have Jamin Pathak, and he will be the interviewer, and I'll be the candidate. He will ask me certain question, I'll answer him. He may ask some specific counter questions as well. Okay, before we go ahead, make sure you subscribe the channel, and if you are an existing subscriber, make sure you press the bell icon to get notified. All right, so without taking much time, let's get started. Hi Jamin, how are you?
Hello Rajneesh, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me here.
So, my question is on programming language, Rajneesh.
Okay.
Do you
Uh-huh.
have any experience with any programming language?
I do have because when I started my career, I was involved in some programming activity, some automation as well. So in a way, I worked with the Python script. So I worked in automating certain tasks, log parsing, parsing certain logs, creating some scripts for pushing some configuration to the remote devices, maybe to servers, verifying certain configuration scripts. So I use a Python script to log into routers and switches and verify if specific commands really exist, maybe to SNMP communities or maybe interface description if that exists. It wasn't majorly related to cybersecurity, but I have an idea about how to create one. I do have, I am comfortable in going to GitHub accounts and Stack Overflow to get some help. Um, I I'm not saying I'm really expert into Python script, but if I can take a help online, and I can maybe GitHub or Stack Overflow, as I said, and I can able to create something myself. So it shouldn't be a problem. There are two more programming language which I'm familiar with. First is the Bash script. There are multiple Bash script that I used. Those were already built in. So there was something related to grab system info, IP log parser, firewall, panic. So these were already built in Bash script I found on GitHub. I utilized them to see data from multiple logs, or to grab the system information, or to verify if specific keyword exists in a file or not. So and I'm familiar with JavaScript. I'm not really good in building the web application altogether from scratch, uh, but I'm comfortable in terms of verifying with multiple JavaScript tags and function related to alert function, or or how the JavaScript and different variables really works. Just like I'm aware about Python and different data types like dictionary, or maybe list, tuple. I'm familiar with JavaScript variables as well. So that's my understanding and my experience working with programming language. So these are the three. And I forgot to tell you, I've even worked a little with the REST API with JavaScript. So that also I have an experience with. So yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Have you ever handled any projects with Python language?
I have. So as I discussed earlier as well. So there were some instance where I created some Python script for API and SSH library as well. So I worked with Paramiko and NetMiko modules, and even with the Scapy as well, to look at multiple data. I worked in I utilize Paramiko to verify if the password strength is good or not. So I remember in my last project we had a policy in the policy was created as a part of GRC program to have at least 12 digit password length. So in order to ensure that has been that has been uh, deployed properly for every users in the system as well. We created, tested a Python script as well internally for all the local credentials. So that's where we utilize the Paramiko to check the password strength, expiry date, and everything. So, but uh, although that was only for the local password, that I used it for verifying the system related activity. Later on, because we were on the application side, we already had Okta and everything, so that was being carried forward. But that was just for a testing purpose, that what how to verify the local credential in the lab environment, not in the production. So before really taking it ahead, I created that. And in the current project, because we have everything from Okta to advanced IAM, the Python script is not really needed. But yeah, I mean, there are some instances where we automate certain tasks as well. So I do have an experience with Python scripting with Netmiko, Paramiko, Scapy, system related modules as well. So yeah, I have done certain projects. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, do you know popular Python modules for malware analysis?
I do know. I mean, I have even used Yara Python. That's the extension. That's a kind of extension module. If we want to use Yara in the command line, we can use the Python, Yara Python, and um, it won't be a GUI based, but we still need the Yara API. And once we add that, we can get it started. Again, the limitation will be the same. I think around we can only submit 4 samples in an hour, so that's the limitation. I probably have to check, but yeah, I mean, I worked with Yara Python. I worked even with the Python Magic to determine the file type, which is very important in the static malware analysis, or to identify what is the file type. Is it the encoded file type? If the file says it's a PDF, but we still need to find out what's the actual extension of the file, right? So that's very important. And I even worked with the hashlib Python scripts to determine the the hash value of the file in SHA or MD5 as well. So that becomes very important, because if we have the hash value, we can perform the lookup on the virus total as well, and that becomes really important over there. uh, जमीन वापस क्वेश्चन पूछना, कुछ गलत बोल दिया मैंने, मेरे को याद आ रहा है. स्टार्ट.
Okay, got it. So, Rajnish, do you know popular Python modules for malware analysis?
Oh yeah, I mean, I worked with the Yara Python extension, because as we know, Yara is used for malware classification. So I used with the Yara Python extension for that purpose to do the malware sample and classifying those malware sample as well. I worked with the Python Magic as well, which is used to determine the file type, which is important part of static malware analysis as well. Then I also work with the hashlib to determine the hash of any file, which is very important, because once we get the hash of any file, maybe MD5 or SHA, we can then perform a lookup on virus total to understand if it is the infected or malicious file or not. So these are some of the scripts or Python scripts I use for malware analysis. So yeah.
Okay, got it. So, yeah, Rajnish, this is all I have for today. Thank you.
All right. Sure. Thank you so much, Jamin. Now this is
You're
pro tip.
welcome.
This is going to be a pro tip. Make sure you use it. Remember one thing. Uh, Even if you don't know about Python, programming language, uh, before, or you haven't worked practically in the programming language, make sure you at least um make your hands dirty with little Python scripts. Make yourself aware about some of the important Python modules as well, and Python scripts as well. To help you out, I'll mention some of the GitHub pages and projects in the description below. I go through that, and whenever interviewer asks you about if you have any experience with programming language, make sure you never say no. Rather, you can answer it by saying that I haven't got a chance to work in the production environment, but I have personally worked with it on my personal capacity for sure. Okay, tell them that you have worked on your personal capacity, you know about this and that. During the interview, if somebody asks you about Python, remember one of the popular question that they might ask you about the Python is what is the mutable and immutable data types, right? So tuple or dictionary list, these are the important things that you should be aware about. What is immutable, what is immutable? Mutable is something that can be changed, immutable that's some that cannot be changed, right? So you should really learn about it. They about the bash script, they might ask you to create some simple bash script. So make sure you are familiar with some of the simple commands in the bash script. And for JavaScript, I don't think the interviewer may ask you a lot of things. Okay, so I told I told you about three questions, a three programming language. You can even say just one. Just tell them I know about Python, or you can tell them about Bash script. Make sure whatever you say, you are at least 30 to 40% comfortable with it. Okay, and rest when they ask you about any projects that you have worked with, make sure you go through the GitHub, any of the projects, GitHub projects, or you created a small projects that you can confidently talk about. Okay, so this is the pro tip from my side. If you have any question about this session, just ask me in the comment section. We would love to answer that. This is me Rajneesh Gupta with Jamin Pathak. Bye for now.